Ladies and gentlemen, the unusual artistry of Sid Croft.
Well, hello everybody. Gather around today because can I tell you a story about my guest today, Adam Carolla. And wow, I got to tell you first of all how we finally hooked up and
Or met.
or met.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Does that sound better? Thank you.
Hooked
Kelly.
up has a totally different connotation.
Does it? Well, I'm old-fashioned. Hooked up, sounds good to me. I know he's probably hearing this for the first time. I got a request from someone to wish Adam Carolla a happy birthday, and that was months and months ago. And for so many years, you know that Adam always wasn't too complimentary about the TV shows that I created. So I came up with a plan. And I'll do the happy birthday. And of course, wish him a happy birthday. And maybe he's going to see it and ask me to be on his podcast. Because I know how he felt about, my shows, and he knocked the hell out of it, and I wanted to respond. Okay, but I didn't hear from him, and when I did this happy birthday, I played one of Adam's podcasts behind me as I was wishing him a happy birthday, and he was knocking the crap out of our shows. So as his podcast was playing, he called me an old fuck. Kelly, he was absolutely right.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, well, I am. Come on. How many times do I have to tell everybody out there?
You're 7 million years
how
old.
old I am. Well, Adam said 158. Wow, that's like, he's going way overboard. So, and I said, Adam, this is Sid Croft. Happy birthday. And you just listen to me, Adam. Every single day, because I've been around, and every single day is your birthday. So celebrate, Adam. And I think you are so funny. I've been watching your podcasts for years and years. And I thought, and Kelly did too, that maybe we were going to hear something back. So I said, hey, Kelly, get in touch with Adam's production company and ask him if he'll come on my show. And wow, it was like a magic trick. We immediately heard back and they said, yes, we want you on our show, and then Adam will do your show. So I ended up, of course, doing his show. It was a blast. Oh, God, I loved it. And just probably a week later, they asked me to come on again. And so what fun it was. So, okay, today at it's 3:02. Yeah, Pacific time.
Are you going to tell the time the whole time, too?
No. On my turf, ladies and gentlemen, Ripley's Believe It or Not, Adam Carolla. So come on down, Adam. I can't wait. Adam even came to my house a few days after I was on.
And came over and looked at the house.
Oh my God, wait, we'll talk about that, because I got to tell you something. Usually when someone comes to my house, they always, almost always, I'm always prepared for it. They say, "Oh, um, my my mom would love this place, or my sister would love this place," and I always respond in saying, "I didn't invite your mom. I didn't invite your sister." But when Adam came, he critiqued the nails. He critiqued, the dowels. I never experienced that. Or the brackets. He just kept walking around the house and critiqued because we made everything, all the furniture, everything in the house. And of course, the house is built out of 265-year-old bonds. There you
Hey,
are.
Hey,
Wow.
you're incognito today.
hold on. Let me shut the door.
Yeah, shut the door. Adam, okay, while you're shutting the door, when I announced that you were coming on, Adam, I got a zillion messages, uh, and they asked me to please ask you, some questions. They want to know how and why you became a comedian, a writer, a producer, or an actor, and then your podcast has broken all world records, right?
Yeah.
And that's it?
I became I grew up poor in the San Fernando Valley. I didn't have a lot of options or opportunities. I got out of high school. I became a carpenter out of high school. I didn't become a carpenter, became a laborer, and I worked on construction sites. And I did that for a number of years. I kind of worked my way up from, digging ditches to putting up, baseboard and casing. And you all, my credentials by my critique of your home.
Oh
And
my God. Yeah, yeah. It was
and
cool. I loved it. I
I
love when people speak the truth. It's great.
well
I
I
love
I
hearing what you thought.
I'm truthful about subjects I'm aware of or that I have some background or expertise in. And carpentry is a field of expertise for me because that was my business for quite a number of years. And I did it for about 5 years, and I realized that it wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't going to make much money off of it. It wasn't creative or fulfilling for me or that interesting for me. So I essentially just thought, well, what else do you think you can do? Because when you're doing something and you're, good at it, I was a good carpenter, but I didn't really want to do it. I tried to give an honest assessment of what else I may be good at. And I thought comedy. I thought I was funny. I thought I had ability to do comedy. I didn't have any experience. I didn't know anybody. I didn't have any background in theater or anything creative. But I thought, well, that's something I could do from an ability standpoint. So I just started to pursue it while I was doing my carpentry.
And that, wow. And then,
And I just kind of slowly pecked away at it for years.
were
And
you successful with like stand up or you weren't?
no,
I
I did.
think you're funny.
I did a little bit of stand up, and I went to the Groundlings and I learned how to do improv, and I
Ah,
I took acting classes, and I took any class I could take. I just said I'd like to learn about comedy, and so I just pursued it like I was trying to get a degree in accounting or something. Like I'm going to take classes. I'm going to spend my extra time on it. I work full time as a carpenter during the day. And at night, I would go out and take my improv classes. And I did that for a number of years with no no success. It didn't yield any results.
Really? Wow.
And when did you get onto the radio?
Yeah. How did that happen?
Well, that's a story that's an interesting story that could be
We like interesting stories. They ask me questions.
inspiring to some of your listeners and viewers.
Yeah.
I had two passions. So I was a carpenter by day, but I liked comedy and I always liked boxing. And so I was a amateur boxer, did the Golden Gloves in the early 80s in Los Angeles. And at some point I thought, man, I wish I could do anything but carpentry. And I became a boxing instructor at a fitness gym.
Wow.
I didn't
That's interesting.
I didn't train professional boxers. I trained secretaries and lawyers and doctors to box, like white collar boxing, they kind of called it.
So you really actually got paid more than carpentry. Wouldn't you make $15, $20 an hour of carpenter? And so,
well, I made $15 an hour as a carpenter, and I made $20 a class as a boxing coach.
You advanced yourself.
Yeah, yeah, but I only taught 5 classes a week, so I only made $100 a week in boxing, and I had a couple of private clients as well, maybe 2 or 3 a week, and so I probably made $150 a week. But I would teach boxing in the morning. I taught boxing, and in the afternoons I would do carpentry, and then I did that for about 2 years, and I was driving my truck one day to deliver a entertainment unit that I built, a cabinet that I built for a client, and I was listening to the radio in Los Angeles, and I was listening to Kevin and Bean on K-Rock radio.
Yeah, I know. I remember that.
Yes, you and Marty, I think, came in when we were in New York City at the Television and Radio Museum in like 2000. No, I think it was like 1996 or 1997, and you guys did it.
Wow.
How did I miss this?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is, I think I'm pretty sure you and your brother came in to New York City at the Television and Radio Museum.
Yeah,
right,
we did.
Right in the middle of Manhattan. It would have been like 96, 95, 96. And you guys came in and sat down, did an interview with Kevin and Bean. I remember that.
Was it interesting? Marty did all the talking, right?
I don't remember. I don't know at the time if I knew the difference between Sid and Marty. I just knew Sid and Marty Krofft were coming in to the Radio and Television Museum in Manhattan, maybe on like 52nd Street between 5th and 4th or something. I remember you guys coming in. I wasn't really anybody back then, but I was listening to K-Rock Radio, and they were doing a boxing match, kind of a morning zoo kind of thing between Jimmy the sports guy and Michael the maintenance man. They were going to box. They're 2 characters on the show.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was driving my truck, and they were saying, well, we need boxing instructors, we need equipment, we need a venue, this fight is on. And I was driving my truck, and I was thinking, man, if I could teach one of those guys to box, I could see the radio station, I could learn about the radio. It just became a very strong propellant for me. It was like, oh, you got to get in there. You got to meet these guys. You got to see what they're doing. You have to check out radio. I always loved radio because I worked construction for a lot of years, and I would always have the radio on, and I would listen to talk radio. I'd listen to the morning radio stations, and I was very enamored with it. And there was a part of me in the back of my head that thought I could do that. I could do that radio. But I was on a construction site, how was I going to do radio? Anyway, it was a long story short, or not too much longer. I called the radio station. They never called back. I kept calling and leaving messages. They never returned my call. At some point, I went to the radio station. I couldn't get into the building. It was too early in the morning. Next day, I came back. I got into the building. I went up to the 9th floor where K-Rock was. It was a commercial building in Burbank, California. I went up to the 9th floor. I got into the building, but I couldn't get into the K-Rock suite because their business hours were 9 to 5, and this was 7:30 in the morning. The building was open, but K-Rock wasn't open. Like going to a dental office on the 9th floor at 7 in the morning. You could get into the building, you could go up the elevator, but you couldn't get into the office, And so I was stymied, and I stood by the elevator, and I thought, well, maybe I could come back. And some guy came out of the elevator, and he started heading down the hall, the back hall, where the key card would get you in to the door. And I sort of walked with him, and I said, are you going into K-Rock? And he said, yeah, I'm going into K-Rock. And I said, well, I'm a boxing coach, and I'm here, and could you tell the people inside that there's a boxing coach waiting outside to teach someone to box? And I didn't know it was going to be Jimmy, the sports guy, or if it was going to be Michael, the maintenance man. It didn't matter to me. I didn't know either one of them. And he said, yeah, I'll tell somebody. He went inside, and I just stood by the elevator. And I stood there for about 20 minutes. And then at some point, some guy came down the hall, and I saw him, and I said, he said to me, are you the boxing coach? And I said, yeah, I'm the boxing coach. And he said, all right. And I said, okay. He said, all right, well, let's do this. And I said, oh, okay, when do you want to start? And he said, today. I said, okay.
It did have a happy ending, didn't it? And that opened up your whole career.
Well, right? that guy was Jimmy Kimmel.
Wow. I knew it was going to have a spectacular, ending. Wow.
So have you been teaching him to box ever since?
Ever since.
How cool.
I do have to say, for me, you and Dr. Drew had done Loveline, forever. And when Dr. Drew was on our show, I have to say the same thing to you. I just really appreciate that you guys talked about things that a lot of people wouldn't talk about on an open forum. And you guys still do that now? I mean, I'm old now, but way back then it was really important being young and having those weird questions answered.
Yeah, we do a podcast, the Adam and Dr. Drew Show, on my podcast network at adamcarolla.com if people want to check it out. And I used to listen to Loveline when I was younger. I grew up out here. I was a big fan. And so it was a thrill when I took over on Loveline. It was crazy. It was surreal. I grew up listening to Loveline, and now all of a sudden I'm hosting Loveline.
Okay, I don't want to change the subject, but you are 5 years old, about 5 years old, because I've got the date when 64 you were born, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So in 69, I'm not good at arithmetic, but it's 1969 is when Puffin Stuff came out. So you were 5, 6, 7 years old while you were watching all of our shows. And then how come years later, after all those years, was it, I don't know. You got to tell me. What was it that you started not liking my shows? And everybody thought I was coming on your shows. on your show with my guns loaded, but that's never me. You know, that's not who I am. And so everybody was sitting on pins and needles. Go ahead.
Well, I have a sort of thing where I think I lived through my childhood, and then I got through my early adulthood, and then I started looking back on my childhood, and I started thinking, what happened here? Now, some of it was
Oh, so I'm getting, you're telling me on my show that I screwed you up.
no, I believe me, whatever I've given you, I've given to my parents times 10. I look back and I was like, what the hell were people thinking? I've done it with teachers. I've done it with schools. I've done it with my parents. I've done it with Sid and Marty Krofft. I've done it with Hanna-Barbera. I've done it with many facets of my life where I went, what the hell happened at this point in my life? And to be fair to you, my ire has not just been focused on Sid and Marty Krofft. I hate much of Hanna-Barbera with the Hair Bear Bunch and all their other just pointless, mindless nonsense, you know, insultingly bad nonsense as well. I'm pretty even-handed. I carried it into adulthood with my ire against Dora the Explorer and Caillou and many other pieces of shit that people have tried to force down the throats of American kids.
But Adam, I got to tell you that that in a way is a huge, huge compliment because there's a lot of stuff out there, and for you to pick up on the stuff that I created, and when I was on your show, I only said I agree with you, and then we didn't get into it, and you were, you know, you pulled back. Everybody thought when I did arrive. Uh, at your studio, I know that everybody thought we were going to have, you know, I was going to load my guns. I don't even own a gun, you know, and I was going to have a, you know, an argument of some sort. But I got to tell you something, just to give me a moment. I started as a puppeteer, you know, and I always knew that I sucked at being a puppeteer. I wasn't good. And, you know, and so I thought, okay, I'm just a young kid. How can I make an impact? You know, because I never really, to this day, I don't feel that I've accomplished everything I would like. And went up in my treehouse. And the reason that I built that treehouse is because you went up a step at a time, you know, and I go up every few days up there. I love it up there, but that is my career, and I haven't gotten to the top yet. It's 30 feet in the air, you know, and if that all makes sense, but I got to tell you what I was really, really great at, Adam, and I still am, I feel. I'm a great, great showman. And that is what made it all work. I did, you know, I started getting good reviews and people were applauding and the audience was loving it. And so I said to myself, and all I had was myself. You know, my family was not in show business. So I thought, holy shit, you know, I think I'm onto something, you know. And so I just kept going and tried to better myself all the time. So you saying, you coming out, it shocked everybody, all my fans, you know, and we didn't respond to it. I know it upset the hell out of my brother, but it was, I created those shows, but I
Well,
loved it. I
let
loved
me
it, Adam.
let me modify my
Yeah.
statements
Yeah.
because I've had
Okay.
some time to reflect on it.
Okay. I don't
So
want anybody to beat you up over this.
I'm fine with it. I have many opinions that
Okay.
differ. Look, I hate the Beastie Boys. They're a horrible, horrible band. They're a horrible,
Wow.
talentless band. everyone hates me for hating the Beastie Boys, but I will not budge from the fact that they're not talented, not creative, not interesting, and people who have the inability to create music. I take a lot of shit for a lot of my stances. If you would like to defend the Beastie Boys and their musicality, knock yourself out. But they suck. So I do this all the time. First things first.
Wow.
I grew up in a world of Hanna-Barbera, Sid and Marty Krofft, and Sherwood Schwartz. It was all junk. Complete and utter junk. Horrible junk.
Why did you watch it? Why?
Because there were 3 channels. My parents neglected me, and I couldn't read.
But shit, I don't know how old you are now. I didn't figure it out. But I got to tell you, that's a lot of years. And when I was on your show, you sang every single song.
I know.
Why would you remember all that?
You want me to sing you the Pete Ellis Dodge commercial right now? Pete Ellis Dodge, Long Beach Freeway, Firestone exit, Southgate. I can tell you how to get to Pete Ellis Dodge. I don't have a Dodge. I don't know who Pete Ellis is. That was
come
it.
on. This is
my
show.
All right, let me circle back and defend you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Sherwood Schwartz was a world-class hack who made junk, nonstop schleck junk. Brady Bunch goes to outer space. Brady Bunch plays Harlem Globetrotters. Brady Bunch Christmas. I mean, he was the schlockiest of the schlock.
But it still lives on.
Yeah. But I get it. People remember the Holocaust. People remember World War II. People remember many things.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's all good. That's all I'm saying. Just because you remember something doesn't mean it's a good thing. There's plenty of junk that people remember. I will say this about Sid and Marty Krofft. The puppets, the creativity, the backdrops, the sort of physical artistry of it, I am remiss because I did not appreciate that aspect of what you were doing. The actual physical, the actual artistry, mechanical, physical artistry of the characters you're creating, the witchy poos and the H.R. Puffin stuff and the flute that talked. And that was all, the trees that would attack you and the forbidden forest. I mean, the boat that he sailed away in, the witchy poos, flying rocket ship. It was all
Boom Broom.
Voom Broom. It was all really creative. It was like sort of artistically, mechanically creative in a sense that I always thought Andy Warhol was a hack. I thought this guy's not a real artist. He can't paint, so on and so forth. And then I watched an Andy Warhol documentary. I got a little bit of a distance from it, and I thought, oh, this guy was an innovator. He was interesting, and he could actually do fine art and commercial art. And he, I sort of came around on him. I don't think I'm ever coming around on Yoko Ono, but I did come around on Andy Warhol. And so I've come around on Sid Krofft because I realized you physically designed and created those puppets in that world and that background. And that was incredibly artistic. Now, the plots were horrible and the dialogue was horrible. The story was horrible, but the actual artistry of it was pretty commendable.
Hey, thank you, Adam. You're not the only one. About 2 years ago, they put like 4 or 5 kids together for a panel and showed them, and it was televised. I have a copy of it, I think, somewhere. And they were 5 years old, 6 years old, no more than 7 years old. And they showed them our shows. There was a 5-year-old boy that almost had a fist fight with the girl because he said, oh, I don't know where he got this word from. after he saw Puffin Stuff first, he said, it's tacky. And why, with CGI, there wasn't CGI in those days, why didn't they use CGI? Because the special effects, he's 5 years old, are absolutely, and the girl started arguing with him, and the girl said, it's very, very creative. Where does a 5-year-old kid get those words? And then the kid put his hands on his
Hips.
hips, on his hips, and he said, I this is all wasting my time. And he walked off. I mean, it was gold. It was gold. You know, I loved it. And people that saw it, they thought I was going to be upset with it. You know, I've been fired many times on the Dean Martin show. We were regulars. We were fired. He hated the puppets, you know. And so I was fired in Borshcapades before it went to Broadway, you know, with Mickey Katz. Did you ever hear of that show?
No, Borshcapades with Mickey Katz?
That's Joel Gray's father.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Great.
And it went to Broadway. It was a smash hit. We did tryout in Atlantic City, and my act went over big, but they didn't like that because it was more powerful than the schlock they were trying to, you know. But people bought that show. It went to Broadway, and it ran for, I don't know, a year or two or whatever it was. And it was all in Yiddish. And I had to learn the opening song, and they put it in the footlights, you know. And I'm not going to sing it to you but I still know the words.
Well, I think a couple things we can say.
Okay.
All right. I do have a baseline respect for anybody who can enter the zeitgeist. There's and what I'm saying is there's people who are in the zeitgeist that you've heard of and you respect and you understand, but it's sort of like the Kardashians. It's easy to make fun of the Kardashians, but they figured it out. They got into the zeitgeist. You can make fun of the Kardashians all you want, but everyone knows who the Kardashians are.
Yeah.
And as much crap as I may talk about Sid and Marty Krofft, everyone knows Puff and Stuff. Everyone knows the Bugaloos. Everyone knows Land of the Lost. Everybody knows those shows. So there's something to making it into the zeitgeist that should not be ignored.
Yeah. Well, thank you for that. You see, I mean, you're talking about the Kardashians, you know, and they figured it out. And it took me all through my puppet years to figure it out. You know, it's the audience that's going to tell you what they like, you know, and I paid a lot of attention to that. But I also love people's opinions, you know, and because I love when they disagree because I learn from that. I don't walk away pissed, you know, and not gather that information. And you know, in working on a big project that I'm working on right now, you know, somebody will throw something out, and I said, well, let me think about it. Give me a day or two. Let me think about it. It doesn't, you know, register with me right now. And that's who I am. And I go away and I come back and I've got this mountain of information with what they said. I always listen to everybody, you know, because people are fascinating. You know, they give you a lot of information. Everybody does. Every walk of life, right?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of. I mean, I tend to just do whatever I want to do. I don't really listen to other people's input. not creatively, but I didn't listen to people's input when I was a carpenter that much either, because I just thought, I'm the carpenter. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to do what I want to do. I would talk to people. I would ask their opinions on things, but generally, I don't like to do art by committee. But on the other hand, it's always good to collaborate. So I think the answer is, get with people. Like when I did the Man Show, I did it with Jimmy Kimmel,
I
and I was
loved
like,
it.
I get this guy. He's really funny, and I understand him. So I want to hear what he has to say about my ideas. I didn't want to hear what my mom had to say about my ideas. I didn't respect or trust her opinion, and or my dad. But I did have people around me that I did trust, and I wanted to talk to them about it.
But Adam, it worked, didn't it? It worked. It worked. Look at your career. And I got to tell you, I don't want to uh, go left, but when you were on the Dancing with the Stars, I know you did maybe 4, 5, 6. You made it through 4 or 5 or 6, and I don't know how you got away with murder on it. But and you always got a 5, 6, or a 7, you know, right?
Yeah.
I watched that show when you were on it. I loved you. I mean, it was like, and so did everybody else. But there were better dancers. It is called Dancing with the Stars. Yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely better dancers. Maybe to inspire some of your viewers, I can tell you why I did Dancing with the Stars. I had no ability to dance. I've never been a dancer. It's not something I'm good at. Um, but I'll tell
Amen.
you, I'll tell you exactly why I did Dancing with the Stars. My agent called me after I did my morning radio show, and um, and he said they've asked if you want to do Dancing with the Stars. Now, let me just preface this. People say, "Oh, he did it to get publicity, or he did it to get money." I have no idea what I got paid from Dancing with the Stars. I never asked. I have no idea what they paid.
Isn't it, Adam? Isn't it every week you get more, and the next week more and more, and yet I think it works that way.
Some
Maybe I'm
some
making it up, but I
some
heard
no.
that.
Somebody told
Yeah.
me once that if you make it past week 4, you get a bump in
Oh,
pay.
oh, it takes 4 to get
Or
a bump.
that's what was told to me.
Well,
You're making my point, which is I never asked. I
yeah.
had no idea. It was academic. It didn't matter what it was. He just said, my agent said, do they want you to do Dancing with the Stars? And when he said it, I felt fear come through me. I felt fearful. It was a little bit of
Well, it's
electricity.
scary. It's scary. You
Yes,
know.
it was. It was a little electricity came through my spine, and I thought, I'm scared. This seems scary to me. And the second I was scared, I realized I had to do it.
Yeah. Well, the same thing with Instagram. Kelly made me do this, and I said,
You
Kelly.
sound like I forced you.
Yes.
I have him tied to the chair.
Yeah, I said, Kelly, I hate doing interviews. I hate it because usually an interview is 2 or 4 minutes. What the hell can you say? How can they get to know you? How can I tell my story? And I want to talk about my career, how I got there, not all the great things we did on television that some people think were great, or I guess more than some people. But anyway, yeah, I totally relate to what you're saying right now. It's so going into something foreign is frightening as hell. Getting up to get an award,
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
it wasn't, getting up to getting an award, to get an award is your name gets called and you stand up and you go up and do it.
2 minutes. They only
Right.
give you 2 minutes.
I did it because I was scared. I realized, no, I really mean it. Like I'm not trying to make myself into a hero. I was scared, but
Of course.
I realized if it scared me, I should do it. That's what I realized. If this feels scary to you, then, and I was prepared to tell my agent, this is lame. I did the man show. This is for C-list celebrities. I don't need to bother with that. But I knew it would all be a lie. I knew the reason I wasn't doing it is
You
because I
were
was
great.
scared.
You were great. Everybody fell in love with you. You know, it was great. You know, as as bad as some of the shows were, it was great.
Well, I
So
knew
you
I
pulled it
couldn't.
off. You pulled it off.
Well, thanks. I knew I couldn't dance very well, but I knew I was going to have to try to make up for it in other facets and riding the unicycle and whatnot. But it was more that I'm bad at this and I should do things I'm bad at because it exposes you. And that's the only reason I did it. It wasn't about publicity or money. It wasn't about anything. And I also wanted the experience of doing something that was completely out of my expertise.
It's great. It's great. That my whole life, I said it on your show. I've always gone left, you know,
Right.
because everybody goes right, and everything that I've done, it's like I'm not sure if it's going to work, you know, and I just take that crapshoot. But you know, in a couple of weeks, I was supposed to have Leslie Jordan on, and uh, and I met him for the first time just a few days before he left us. I never met him before, and oh my God, he was waiting for me to arrive because he wanted to tell me a story uh, that was really important to him because he was very young and he auditioned for our park and he didn't get the job, you know. And as I was talking to him, I said, "Oh my God, Leslie, you remind me, talk about going back, you remind me of Tennessee Williams." And he said, "Yeah, a lot of people have said that, you know, because of the accent and whatever." And so uh, I knew Tennessee Williams, and the the one of the most exciting parts of my life in being in a room with Tennessee Williams and Truman Capote. I mean, it was gold. The two of them, because this is back in the 50s, they were just like Leslie. They were so open about, you know, their personal lives, and they were hysterical together. And so I was playing the Caribe Hilton, which I played a lot in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and they had a gambling in the hotel and a showroom, but all they had was a dancing and one act. And I played there 2 or 3 times every year in the wintertime. And Tennessee Williams was, uh, he was a guest. He lived there all through the winter, you know, as a permanent guest. And so after my show, I walked, and he'd come in to see my show almost every night. So I really knew him. And uh, after my show one night, I went into the casino and I didn't gamble, but I think I went in to have people come up to me and tell me how wonderful my act was. You know, we're on a little ego trip. We love hearing compliments. And so uh, the concierge came up to me and he said, "There's somebody in the lobby that flew in from Hollywood and he would look, is it okay if I bring him up here?" And he told me his name, and I wasn't even listening because after he told me his name, Warren Beatty, and he said, "It's Shirley MacLaine's brother." That's all I heard. Shirley MacLaine's brother. So this guy walks in, and you know how incredible looking he was, or is, he still is. And and he said, you know, I flew in. I understand that you know Tennessee Williams. I said, yes, I do. He's gambling right behind us with the woman that owns the heir of Dole, you know. And he said, well, I flew in because I was up for a movie, The Gigolo and Mrs. Stone, that Tennessee Williams wrote, but he had final, you know, he made the final decision on the actor that was going to have an Italian accent or whatever and be the gigolo. And he said, I didn't get it. And so I spent my own money. I flew in hoping that I could meet him. Right. And I said, Warren, or no, I didn't even know his name. You know, I was going to call him Shirley MacLaine's brother. I said, just spin around. And if Tennessee Williams sees you, he'll be over here like a David Copperfield trick, like in a flash. And so, boom, there was, Tennessee was not, you know, very tall too. That's why he reminded me of Leslie Jordan. And and so he uh, he started. He said, "Sid, I loved your show tonight," and he wasn't even in there that night. And so I introduced him to Warren Beatty, and they walked away. The next morning, went to the beach early in the morning. I hope I'm not putting everybody asleep, but it does have a sort of a good ending. And the next morning, I'm all by myself on the beach, and I see Warren Beatty in his yellow bathrobe they used to have behind the door, you know, and in everybody's bathroom. And I I didn't know his name, and I screamed, "Hey, did you get the job?" And he gave me thumbs up. And so that was his first big movie. And then years went by, and his wife was at my house for dinner with Antonio Banderas one night. And and I told her the story. I thought maybe I exaggerated, you know, a little bit. And she got him on the phone, and he said, no, that's exactly the way it was. So is that a story that should be in my book, or is it too boring? What do you think, Adam?
I was transcribing it.
Were you? Are you? No, I saw you with your eyes closed. You were either.
No, that was me.
Oh, was it?
No. Listen, I close my eyes frequently to absorb more of information. I find I close my eyes a lot when people talk because I'm listening, and when I close my eyes, I absorb more information. I do it all the time. It's a little off-putting, but I find when I'm opening my eyes, I'm seeing things, and I'm gathering other bits of information.
That's great.
And when I close my eyes, and I do it a lot, and like I said, it's not everyone's favorite trait of mine, but when you talk, sometimes, and when people talk, I oftentimes close my eyes and just listen because I don't want other outside stimuli affecting me.
Adam, I better build a better story on that. You know what I mean? And maybe add a few things, but I don't do that. That actually really happened. I bumped into him many years after that, and I said, "How come in your book you didn't mention me?" He told that story about Tennessee Williams, and he said, "Oh, I really apologize, but," and he remembered that I introduced him to Tennessee Williams, and that's the only credit I'm going to take. Okay. You wanted to hear a Judy Garland on an elevator story?
Sure.
Okay, I'm on
Are
tour.
you sure?
I'm the opening act for Judy Garland, and I'm doing her national tour. And and we're playing Dallas. And I get on the elevator, and there were a couple of her dancers on the elevator, and the door opened on another floor, and a woman got on the elevator and looked over at the dancers and said, "Oh my God, that was the best show I have ever seen in my life." And oh, it was just so memorable. And they said, one of the dancers said, "What about Mr. Croft?" And she said, "What do you do?" And I said, "I was the opening act." And she started screaming. She said, "That was the worst thing I have ever seen in my entire life. I'm a Christian, and I got to tell you something. All that smoking and dancing, and I had a puppet that did a strip, and she said, I'm going to, screaming. The door opened. She's in the lobby, screaming at the top of her lungs, I'm going to see that you get fired. It spoiled the whole show. Why would she have something so awful?" So see, you're not the only one. You know, my life has been full of rejection.
And I have to keep him in his place every day. It's okay. Still gets rejection.
Okay, there's a moment of silence.
Yes, he's probably reading.
No,
Are you reading all the, my God, people are asking us so many questions.
Or just saying things.
Yeah. So, Adam, it was so much fun coming on your show. It was just great. And
I have to thank you. I'm going to interject. I have to thank you for inviting Sid to your show, because on the way there, Sid and I had a long conversation. You know, 2 years ago, Sid wouldn't have even come onto your show. 3 years ago, he wouldn't have come onto your show. Just like how he was saying, you know, he was so afraid. You know, he did have fear of just the Instagram. And then to go on your show, I sat in your green room and I was like a proud mom, like just watching him, you know, you guys interacting. It was magic. It was magic to be there. It was magic to be part of that. I was so ecstatic to finally meet you, not at like a K-Rock weenie roast or something, because I've met you a few times, but you meet a gazillion people. So who do you even know who you meet? But it was really, I have to thank you. I have to thank you.
I thank you too, because, you know, you've been part of my career, you know, because of what you've always, or not always, but the things that you said about our shows. And I love that you call me an old fuck, you know, because that is brilliant. You know,
well, you know,
because you were so right. I am. I mean, I'm still here.
but I do apologize for that.
No, please.
That's a
I'm not.
pejorative. I shouldn't have used it.
No, I love it.
Now, you know, I really do honestly saying old and fuck. That's beneath me. I shouldn't have said that. I really do mean that. I should have stuck to the art and focused on the topic at hand. And old, young, middle age has nothing to do with it. Like, Yoko Ono is horrible, but I should never call her old. She's just horrible. And as a matter of fact, I hurt my point if I would call her old fuck horrible. She's just horrible
it
in
doesn't work
any age.
with a woman. An old fuck is okay with a
Yeah,
man.
So I regret that. I shouldn't have said
No,
it.
I'm not asking for an apology.
I know you're
because
not. I'm
I
just
love it.
being critical of myself. I should have
Yeah.
never said old fuck. That's ridiculous. There's old people that are brilliant. There's old people that are hacks. It's neither here nor there.
You know what I didn't tell on your show? Oh my God, I know that you're going to be watching the football game, right?
It is true. They are waiting for me.
Are they? At your home? Everybody's waiting?
Yes.
And it's an important game. So, you know, I was going to, we never talked about Mae West or Liberace, but I'll do it. You know what? I'll do it you'll invite me back if
Oh
it's
yeah,
months from now or whatever, because I still have a lot of stories to tell.
you come back anytime you like.
Well, thank you, and thank you so much for coming on my show, Adam, and to be continued, right?
Yeah,
You
we'll
know
do
who
it
I'm
again.
having on next week? Tom Green.
I
Which
love
is
Tom
another
Green.
thank you.
And that's a big thank you. And I'm really stoked with that because we both got Razzies. I think I got more Razzies than he did, for Land of the Lost. And we're both Canadian, you
Oh,
know.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a sweet man, as you are. So I think you're
Thank you
going to
so much.
with Tom.
Adam, have a great game and a great rest of the weekend. And I thank you so, so much for coming on. It means a lot to me, and
Love you,
I'm
Sid.
glad we, met each other.
I feel the same way.
It's incredible. And thank you for coming to visit me in my home.
My
And
pleasure.
I hope I didn't feed you. My food wasn't too strange.
The salmon was great.
Oh,
Thank,
okay. Hey, thank you. Have a great night.
thank you, Sid.
And thank you, everybody. Wow, wasn't that cool? Isn't he? Oh, I love him. So much fun. Wow. Um, all the people all the great people that I have had on, and we've got some more coming. And so I'll see you next week with Tom Green. Oh boy, we're going to talk about some good stuff. And thank you so much. Uh, and like I say, to be continued. Have a great, great weekend, rest of the weekend.